Has anyone ever self-labeled themselves as ADHD? Has anyone had a friend that has self-labeled themselves as ADHD? They don't have an actual diagnosis, but they say all the time, I'm ADHD, I can't focus. I did this myself. I was 22 years old and I had a hard time focusing. I was in college, a lot of studying. So I went to the doctors. I filled out a form, put a bunch of checks by some boxes. Doctor comes in, asks me a few questions, and lo and behold, I have ADHD. Now, I have access to very powerful psychostimulants, Adderall, and Ritalin. And what I found is over time, and this led me to my research paper I did last semester in Yasmin's class, and I did my thesis on late onset ADHD for adults. And what I found is that actually 7 to 9% of kids have ADHD, and it's a neurological disorder, which could be a structural, biochemical, and electrical abnormality in the brain or brain stem, which leads them to not being able to control their attention. What was more interesting is that when you look at adults who have ADHD, it's only 2 to 4%. And it wasn't actually a neurological disorder that caused them to have ADHD, but it was a high IQ. This led me to believe that there might be some potential that maybe as adults we're not truly ADHD. And maybe there are some serious cases, and I don't want to take anything away from anyone if you have a serious case of ADHD. But from my own personal experience, what I recognized that it was actually my own laziness and my ability to focus. So in my research, what I found is that 80% of adults who have self-proclaimed ADHD actually have what's called comorbidity, which means that they have other symptoms present. So this can be depression, this can be PTSD, this can be anxiety. So it's not very clear, are they really experiencing ADHD or are they actually experiencing something else? So there's lots of limitations, a lot of it being self-administering questionnaires and people just being able to check off a box and say, yeah, I was able to focus more after doing mindfulness. There's also needs to be more double-blind studies. But what I find is in our society is we're constantly wanting to label things. We constantly want to feel like our problem, there's this easy solution and I can take a pill for it and then I'm fixed. And I can go out into the real world and I can live my life without actually having to do some real deep work. Not to take away from any children who might have ADHD, but I think a lot of times we're even putting our children into boxes. And we're saying, hey, you're hyperactive. And I don't know if anyone has children who have ADHD. And I want to take again, don't stop giving your child the medication unless your doctor says that's okay. What I would say is that our medical doctors need to do a better job of, number one, being educated, better practices. I think it was someone else in the class, they were talking about going to their doctors and they had an actual relationship with their doctor versus I think most of us, we go to the doctors. I don't have a relationship with my doctor. And all I did was I just marked off those check boxes that made me appear to have ADHD. The doctor came in, asked me a few questions, and then voila, I have ADHD. Rather than that doctor actually having some kind of relationship with me, sitting down with me, and over a period of time really discovering. So where I find a lot of value in mindfulness is whenever I started practicing meditation, I started feeling the effects better. I started feeling like I could focus more, I could pay attention more. And that has only just gotten better and better as my meditations increase, as my meditations grow longer. So I think this is something that is worth studying more. This is something where we need more double-blind studies. And I think there needs to be room for doctors to actually have training in mindfulness. So the usefulness in mindfulness and the value of mindfulness is being able to offer a skill that people can practice that's going to develop their attention, being able to develop their focus. Where in my case, if I showed up to the doctor and they said, hey, instead of prescribing you this powerful psychostimulant that you could get addicted to and that long-term is not very good for your health, how about you take this 8-week MBSR course and come back and we'll see how you feel and we'll assess it from there. And for the people who already have ADHD, maybe they were diagnosed as children and they've been on these powerful psychostimulants for a long time, they can do treatment as usual alongside mindfulness. And there's a great study that has come out that has showed that's been very effective, and instead of just taking this pill. So That pretty much wraps it up for me. It's just being able to offer a way to help us all focus our attention. If you ever have that friend who says, I'm ADHD, if you saying you have ADHD, practice mindfulness first. Don't just get hooked on a drug. Don't just take a drug to get a quick fix, but really take the long-term route to help your mind, help your focus, help your attention. And that's pretty much it. So thank you all.